Watch this video before you start supervision. Hi, I'm Dom, the BCBA mom, and welcome back to my channel. I'm a BCBA and loves giving you tips and information on how to get into this field of ABA. In today's video, that's exactly what we're doing. Today, we're discussing all things supervision. I know you have so many questions about supervision. Restricted versus unrestricted hours. What do you do to get started? When can you get started? All of your questions are going to be answered during this video. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That way you get notifications on when I upload more videos. All right, let's get right into it. So I don't know if you heard, but supervision is a requirement in order to become a BCBA. So today we're going to talk about when to start supervision, how to start supervision, and what your supervision structure should look like. I'm also going to give you lots of tips and resources. I'm going to try to give you as much as I can. The first thing we're going to talk about is when should you start supervision, okay? There are a few answers to this, but the first thing I would say is you cannot start supervision before you are enrolled in a ABA program and you have completed your first day of the class, okay? So you can start supervision at any time. You can start supervision 1 month in, 6 months in, or 3 years into this program. It doesn't matter. You just cannot start before you enroll in a program. I think I started my supervision program after my second semester. So for us, we had to have taken ethics before we can start supervision. This was back in the day when I tested. But lucky for you, you can start supervision from your very first day of class. So you may want to look into doing that sooner than later. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to start supervision. So the first thing you have to do is find a supervisor. So what does that mean, find a supervisor? So that is an active BCBA with no disciplinary action that has completed the 8-hour supervisor coursework and meets the ongoing CEUs, and that has at least 1 year of experience as a BCBA. Or if they don't have 1 year of experience as a BCBA, they are receiving mentorship or consulting with another BCBA that has been in the field for longer than a year. So this is also a change to the requirements, right? They want to make sure that your supervisor has everything they need so they can pour into you. Sometimes you don't get that in your first year of becoming a BCBA. So it's always good for those new BCBAs who are providing supervision that they are also being mentored by a more seasoned BCBA. You can make sure that your supervisor meets all of these requirements just by going to the BACB website, typing in their name, and all of that information should be in there. So I know you're probably thinking, how do we find these supervisors? Is it just like a pool of BCBAs that are just looking to help us get these hours? Yes and no. There are agencies out there that specialize in supervision. That is what they are there for. Sometimes you can find your supervisor at your current site where you work. If you work at a agency or a clinic that has a supervisor that meets all of these requirements, they may be a likely candidate to be your supervisor. You can also find a supervisor online and do remote supervision, and all of your supervision is via computer, via telehealth, via observations and videos. You can go to your university and go to the ABA department and ask if they have a list of supervisors or practicum sites that they have worked with in the past, and try to find your supervision that way. So it's important to start early identifying who that potential supervisor can be, even if you don't start that service until 6 months from now. You may want to, okay, so this is what you should expect during your supervision program. Of course, it will look different from site to site, from supervisor to supervisor, okay? All BCBAs are different and we work with different populations. So my supervision site may look different than a supervision site that works in a clinic with 3 and 4 year olds with autism, okay? But typically the structure should be the same, right? You can finish all of your supervision hours in a minimal of 16 months. And that's if you do the maximum of 130 hours of supervision per month and you don't take any breaks. You can finish in about 16 months. If you want to set your own pace, you have a maximum of 5 years to get those hours. And that can be working with a number of different supervisors. You don't have to stick with one supervisor. So you have to meet with your supervisor for 5% of your total hours. So if you are doing 130 hours per month, then you should meet with your supervisor for 6.5 hours per month. Or you can think of it as every 30 hours of work, let me check in with my supervisor to make sure that I'm doing this right and get some feedback. Or you can think of it as 4 times a month, I'm checking in with my supervisor so that she can monitor my work. Whatever makes sense in your head, that's how the structure of the supervision should look. However many hours that you total, you should meet with your supervisor for 5% of those total hours in order for all of those hours to count. Okay? If you need me to explain that a little further, just message me in the comments, y'all. I know it's a lot. I know you're thinking, so what am I doing when I'm not meeting with my supervisor? That's a great question. You are completing unrestricted hours. So if you're wondering what unrestricted hours are, that is pretty much anything a BCBA does on a regular basis that is aligned with the BACB
So
that can include caregiver conducting assessments directly related to the need of the client, creating and designing measuring tools, using those measuring tools, teaching other people how to use those measuring tools, writing and designing treatment plans, teaching others how to carry out those treatment plans. I can go on and on. Let's talk a little bit about restricted hours. It's restricted for a reason. Okay, so restricted hours are the direct hours that we are working with our client. So the BACB does not want us to exceed 40% of our total hours working directly with our clients. And you may be thinking, well, why is that? Aren't we supposed to work directly with our clients? We're BCBAs, right? Yes, but as a BCBA, we work less with the client and we work more behind the scenes, creating the support and the documents and the tools and all the things that the caregiver needs to support the client, that the RBT needs to support the client, that the person in the client's community needs to support the client. So there is a reason why there is a restriction on restricted hours or direct hours working with your client. When you think of these weekly meetings with your supervisor, they should be anticipated and not avoided. Even if you didn't perform your best that week, even if you don't know all of your terms, even if you didn't complete all of your assignments, that's not the time to avoid your supervisor. That's the time to still show up to the meeting, to be honest, and to receive some feedback and to hopefully strengthen that skill. It is our job as BCBAs and as supervisors to, like, this is not a place that we should judge you or say that you should be further along. Like, your journey and your path is at your own pace. But that comes with trust, that comes with communication, and that comes with the supervisor creating a safe space that you can learn. Next, I'm going to talk about your responsibilities as a supervisee. Okay, so I'm going to categorize these, right? This is your responsibilities when you start, when you are new, when you are just learning this process. And then I'm going to say, what should your responsibilities evolve into as you get more familiar with this program? Okay, so roles and responsibilities, how they should start versus how they should end. One of your responsibilities is to just show up to the meeting prepared. If there was an assignment due, have the assignment. If you were supposed to show up at 3 o'clock, show up at 3 o'clock. Just show up and do what you said that you were going to do. One way to evolve in this role is don't just show up to the meeting, but you can also take the lead and schedule the meeting. The second thing is you should always have questions ready. This is a learning opportunity. Supervision is your opportunity to have a one-on-one with a professional, an expert that may have all the answers to your questions if you just ask your questions. So that should be your job, to come up with questions. And as you evolve in this program, maybe you can come up with the whole agenda for the hour, because now you are taking lead of your meeting and you know exactly what you want to talk about. The third thing that you are responsible for is participating. If the supervisor is asking for a volunteer to demonstrate this skill, the least you can do is participate. If the supervisor is asking you to answer a question, whether your answer is right or wrong, just try. As we evolve in this program, we want you to become proficient in that skill, okay? But we won't know your progress if you don't just start. Start somewhere. Start answering questions. Start practicing. Just start somewhere so that we can give you feedback on how to grow and how to develop. Another responsibility is you should be able to take feedback well. As you evolve, you should not only take feedback, but you should apply that feedback to your very next session. Your last responsibility is document your hours. Don't think anyone else is responsible for documenting your hours but you. In the beginning, your supervisor may help you through this process, give you some tools and some strategies on an easier way to document your hours. They will sign off on your hours. They will review your hours, but it is your responsibility to document all of your hours. And that's going to be the same when you become a BCBA. So it's perfect timing to get started now and practice documenting everything. You also want to save all of your documents for at least 7 years. Exactly. You're in the big leagues now. We're saving all of this stuff for a generation. Okay, so I am running out of time. So I have one last bonus tip that you may want to learn, but I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to say it quickly. If you want to know the quickest way to finish your supervision hours, the first way is to do the concentrated program. So we all know that to finish your supervision hours, you have to have a minimum of 2,000 hours, but there is a concentrated program where you only have to have 1,500 hours, but you are meeting with your supervisor more frequently. So instead of meeting with them for 6.5 hours, you're meeting with them for 13 hours. The second quickest way to complete your supervision hour is to overlap. While you're in school, start getting your supervision hours. While you are working at that job or at that clinic or at that school, start getting your supervision hours. You don't have to stagger it. You can overlap, okay? Some people don't overlap because it can be too overwhelming, right? You want to leave room for life. You want to leave room for whatever it is that you got going on, which is fine. But I do want to remind you that this is not a race. Supervision should be your favorite part of this whole process. This is the time that you have your person that you can talk to about behavior jargons, that you can talk to about problems that are going on at work, a mentor, some more guidance in this field before you are released to do it all by yourself. And most of the time as BCBAs, we work in isolation. So appreciate your time in supervision. I know you're probably feeling like, I'm never going to meet these hours. I'm never going to be done. But when you find the right supervisor and you find the right program, this could be the most impactful time of your BCBA career. Okay, so that is all that I have for you today. I'm going to be having a supervision meeting a little later. I may be able to bring you in a little bit on that. But other than that, it's been great talking with you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with someone who is getting ready to start supervision or they started it already. It doesn't even matter. This video is for them. This video is for you. And as we know, it always keeps getting better. If you are looking for supervision or mentorship, there is a link in my bio, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye. But I love the dialogue.
Concepts and principles.
Concepts and principles for 500. Okay. Define and provide examples of the verbal operands. Ooh. This is a good one.
I don't like that one.
No one does. 500. 500.
I know that the verbal operant deals with language. So if I had to just take a stab at it, the examples I would think about is like a echoic or introverbals, or it's an echoic, an introverbal.
There you go.